And here we are for Roundtable number 33. I believe it's number 33 because I commented on it last time and I'm thinking it was 32. So now it's 33. Oh my God. Numbers that match. It's got to mean something. No, it doesn't mean anything at all, but it's kind of cool that we've made 33 roundtables. That's fucking amazing. That said, though, here we go. This is it. We are joined today by Jay, Marie, Amanda, and of course, Andrew. I am also here, you may have noticed by the voice. And we're going to see where this conversation goes, because for me, it's been just an educational fucking couple weeks. I say a couple weeks, but it's really so funny, right? Like, it's like, when did the change in your life really happen? It's like, I don't know. Which part? Like, it's just been ongoing since the beginning, but the last 2 weeks have been particularly memorable, I think, because they're so close. But it has been, it's been an educational interval for me, because so much of what I have done in my life was oriented around this idea of me. And I've said this previously. And then afterwards, it was like, fuck, that idea of me is a real bitch. Like, it doesn't mean anything about me at all, but I keep responding to it like it does. And so for the last 20 some odd years, it's been just watching that happen and then recognizing that seeing it happen is enough. That there's nothing else I really need to do with it. That to recognize when I've given in to that itch to scratch, when I've decided to make it about me, to settle on a concept, all of that, seeing that I've done it is enough. Because seeing that I've done it and seeing the consequence that plays out go hand in hand. And that's it. It's just seeing. And the more you see, the more obvious everything becomes. But we desperately want to make it about doing something else. It's like, nope, I've seen this. Now I need to apply it. Like, that's not how this works. You are application. It's not just those moments where you have a quote unquote spiritual conversation. It's those moments when you're taking a shit, worried about your bills. You know, those are moments of application. You know, it really has nothing to do with the discussion and everything to do with watching when you get caught up in a story that makes you feel like you have a little bit more security and control. And then watching the frustration and the fear that goes with that control. Because in seeing it play out, you're much less likely to give into it next time. And there's nothing wrong with getting caught up in it this time then, because that means you're going to get fucking to see it next time. So don't judge yourself. It's all growth. Go through it. You don't know what it means. You don't know what it means. But assuming you know what it means and needing it to mean something is definitely going to get in the fucking way.
Oh yeah, and then like there's a pull to figure it out. And like it's not just okay, you can stop now. It's like now how do I get over this? And almost a feeling of like making it permanent. You know, we were talking about the itch and not needing to scratch the itch on the last call, but there can be almost a pull to create a life where you never get itches anymore. Like you've created a life where the itching doesn't happen. Like you never get itchy ever again. Meanwhile, the not getting itchy is just you've created a life that's constantly scratching it. It's like constant scratching instead of, oh, I don't even need to do anything about it. That can be what it is, and I don't have to respond in that way or do something in response to the itch or the focus or the looking at, you know, yourself. But yeah, likewise, the last couple of weeks have been a very awesome learning experience. And as much as going through things can feel uncomfortable, you can get a really good look at the futility in thinking that you can know anything and finding certainty and being sure of something or how you're doing, or just to focus on that story. So I'm super excited for this roundtable. Marie, Jay, Amanda, Ray, glad we're here, glad we're hanging, and I will pass to Amanda.
Oh my goodness. I just put a meme in the chat and it was like when I'm making up scenarios in my head and I take it too far and I hurt my own feelings. And I just thought of that when you were chatting and I was just like, There are so many times where I've done that. I was just like, damn, I'm feeling offended by a hypothetical. A hypothetical, people. This didn't even happen yet. And yet here I am offended at what I think they could have said about something I could have said. And I'm just like, this shit is out of hand or out of control. But it's like, even when I'm not doing that, I'm not necessarily in control. And when I was coming back from the retreat, I I I bought a notebook. I bought a journal at the airport, and I was sitting on the floor in front of the gate, and I had to run and catch a bus to another terminal. So by the time we got to the gate, I thought I was like just making it. And of course the flight was delayed like 30 minutes. And I was like, all that running for what? And I'm just sitting there on the floor. And then I was like, fuck it. I bought a journal. So I went to the store, I bought a journal. I sat back down. I was like, okay, let's process. And as I'm writing, the feeling that I kept feeling was just, I don't know how to process this. I don't know how to process this. There is so much that is happening. There is so much that I am feeling right now. And I genuinely do not know how to process all that I am feeling right now. And that's only recognizing what I'm acknowledging that I'm feeling. That's not even talking about the shit that we have buried. That is not talking about the things that we haven't even found yet. That is just talking about all the things that were on that table in that particular moment. And that felt like I didn't know how to process that. I didn't know how to digest that. I didn't even know what to do next, except just be like, whoa, this is a lot. And I'm sitting in it. And so I was just rereading, because I haven't actually looked at it since I came back from the retreat. So I was rereading it. And one of the things I wrote was, I feel a building momentum and wonder if it only feels like the momentum of my life is picking up speed because the momentum of my concepts is slowing down. And I was really wondering, like, what's this perception, right? I'm feeling this momentum, but am I feeling the momentum, or is it just that I'm recognizing and feeling the momentum of the moment of life, of potential, and I'm not so much focusing on the momentum of my thoughts, which usually gets the bulk of my attention and the bulk of my focus. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Well said. That was actually really, really well said, for sure. As I've said to you before, let's print that shit and put it on a t-shirt, because it really just comes down to the fact that life is change. And we get so caught up in our thoughts that we actually hope for change. That we sit there in our stagnation, dreaming about the change that will never come because we're holding on to our stagnation. And this was what Krishnamurti's point always was. You want to experience the unknown, but you want to keep thinking about it. And everything you think about is based on what you know. So you'll always experience more of the known until you stop thinking about it, until you actually allow yourself to just continue on, despite the attachment to the thought, despite the thought. Because I think that's the important thing. It's not about not thinking about it. It's about you actively not thinking about it. The thought's going to keep happening. It's in there. It's always there. It's always there. And as soon as you're like, is the thought there? Oh, it got bigger. Okay? That's exactly the point. But until then, you are not giving it that credibility. You're not feeding it. You're not giving it energy, because the thought only exists in potential until you look at it and give it reality. Right? That's it. Until then, you're informed by its potential. But once you look at it, it becomes more and more reality. Now you're informed by its truth, because you keep looking at it, right? Rather than where it is within context, which is what we call being reasonable. It really is just recognizing that you don't have to grab on. But in not grabbing on, life is going to keep changing. And that's the problem. Or rather, that's what we tend to perceive as a problem. Because if I don't know where this is going, I don't want any part of it. Right? And why don't I want any part of it? Because it means something about me. And that's it. And that goes really deep. I mean, we're talking about certain situations. You can also talk about like physical danger, right? Because a lot of people live their life in fear of physical danger. If I go out, I might get attacked. If you stay home, you might get attacked. It's sure, like, I'm sorry to say, if you're sitting at home suffering through agoraphobia, you got to realize, like, planes crash, meteors fall, cracks open up in the earth. There are always things that could happen. Like, you can live your life in fear of everything. They're all there. You could fear everything. You could walk into the woods fearing ticks and Lyme disease. You could walk into a street fearing people or cars. And the funny part is, no matter what you choose to fear, there are infinite other things that you could be fearing that you're not thinking about. And isn't that funny? Because you're not influenced by them at all, but they're all there too, which means that all of them could exist and you don't have to focus or be influenced by them. You can just let them be. Just let them be what they are and continue on and experience the change that goes with that. But it can be quite intense at first, until you realize the only reason it's intense is because you have been so stagnant.
Isn't even, there we go, first word, when, as you're talking, like all these thoughts about, potential thoughts that I could look at are running through, like, oh, what if he stops talking? You have nothing to say or nothing to share or nothing to add. Like that one comes up a lot for me. And then like, yeah, that's going to be there. But then if I don't look at it, and it's like, there is almost like an option there. It's like, yeah, and especially in new situations, like a lot more can come up, which I'm definitely gaining an appreciation for. Jay, what's up, man? Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you too. Welcome back. Hope you all had a nice, trip in many, many ways. Yeah, I've been experiencing kind of a lot of this lately, what we're talking about here with my new job. I'm coming into a situation where there's a lot of people that have a lot of ways that they do things. There's a lot of habits and, people have their own way of interacting with each other that I can see. It's like there's already layers in place that everybody's kind of found their own sort of comfort zones in. And I'm coming into the situation and I'm supposed to be learning to take over the supervisory role. So it's kind of like I'm tasked with like sort of not rocking the boat, but also at the same time, they want me to like figure out how to make some changes. And so that's, it's going to rock the boat. So I'm starting to see that push pull. And also there's a lot of myself in that mix too, whereas like I'm thinking about how this could reflect on me in certain ways. If I make this decision or that decision, or, if I piss this person off, then I know he's friends with this person and that person. So then they're not going to be on board. So it's like, there's all these like considerations that come up and like, I haven't been listening to them necessarily. Like they're there, all these thoughts that I think are, valid or whatever, all these ways that I can convince myself that I know what's going on, because that's what I do. You know what I mean? When I'm thinking about this stuff is just that I'm trying to figure out what is going on so that I know, so I have like some secure ground to stand on. Like at least I know where this guy's at with me, or I know where I'm at with this girl. You know what I mean? Like trying to like figure all this stuff out. But lately it's been more just like noticing that they're there and letting it kind of not dismissing it or anything like that. But I just know that the thoughts are just going to keep on coming. And if I hang on to this one, then it's kind of like I go on a little thought ride. And then next thing you know, I kind of hop off and I'm like, oh, like I was on a little thought ride. And then I just kind of missed half of what was going on in the meantime. You know what I mean? But I know that the thoughts don't, like, once they're there, they're already recognized. There's nothing that I need to like hang on to and go for the ride with, like once the thought happens, like, okay, there's that. And then you can just kind of continue on with your day. And that's more or less how it's been, and I've noticed, yeah, whoa, there is a whole lot more time to get into shit, basically, to get into other stuff, which is what I'm finding. Like, because I'm not like other people I notice at work, they're walking around, I can see them, they're in their narratives, they've got scowls on their face, or they're acting reactively to something somebody says, rah, 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 or this guy's over here complaining about this and that. And I just kind of see this whole symphony going on around me, and I'm just like, wow, and how can I'm more or less not to judge, but I'm like, how can I be sort of like helpful, or what could be my how can I be useful or what can I learn, from this? You know what I mean? And more or less just trying to, instead of putting my own thought and trying to jump on with all of that and trying to get my way in things, just trying to understand that the thoughts are there, don't have to pay attention to them necessarily. And then there's just a lot more time to find things to be useful with, to just actually be relevant in the conversation instead of what's going on in my head. Because that sort of, that's where people kind of get conflicted. It's like a dissonance in conversation because I'm thinking this, I've got this whole idea, this whole narrative going on, and you're thinking that you got your whole narrative going on. Here we come together. We can't see eye to eye because of the cloudiness of what's going on behind us in our own brain. You know what I mean? But it's been fun. Good to see you guys back. Hi, listeners.
It is good to be back, and I'm glad you're here, man. Yeah, it's interesting, like I think the one thing that's changed so much for me has been just not reacting to my thoughts. Like just giving them time, just kind of going, huh, that's interesting. And then just continuing on. Like in the case of having a consideration about, two workers and their friendship and how that might affect the politics and stuff like that. I go through stuff like this at the retreat, right? And all of a sudden I'll go, huh, well, that's interesting. Right. I'll just move on. But the whole thing is I'll just go, huh, that's interesting. But all of a sudden, if you were like, oh, I need to be liked, there goes that thought spiral. Right. Otherwise, it's just what it is. Now you've taken on a certain aspect. Now you keep going. There's another one. Oh, there's another one. And there's another one. And before you know it, you have a more full picture of what's happening. But it's kind of like intrusive thoughts, right? Like people keep going, oh, I'm having intrusive thoughts. It's like, no, actually, you're having thoughts that are kind of reinforcing things that are important to you, right? Like, I'm really afraid of doing these things. But those thoughts are kind of enforcing why you won't do those things. Like, they're not intrusive. They're kind of indicating something that you don't want to accept yet. Like that's it. Like, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You're not going to hurt other people. You have consideration, that kind of thing. Those intrusive thoughts are there, but they're not intrusive. They're reflecting what you doubt. Right. So all of a sudden you're worried, oh God, I don't know if these people like me. You're doubting that's like doubting your own value. Right. And that you're just kind of like, that's a weird thought to get caught up in. So I'll let that go. Oh shit. That might actually affect my relationship with those people. And then the next time you talk to one of them, it's there. You're not thinking about it actively, but all of a sudden it's like you've seen another layer, how this person's a human being just like you. Right. That's the one thing I love about it is when all of a sudden the ground beneath the two of you just opens up and you're like, fuck, if I stop thinking about myself for a second, you feel like I do. And it changes your relationship, but you can't, it's not one of those things that you can, try to actively do. It's one of those things that happens when you just don't get caught up in making it about you. So I'm really excited about your job, Jay. I just wanted to say that. Like, I think you're going to do really well in the supervisor role, man, because it really is. Everybody assumes supervisor means authority rather than supervisor meaning somebody who just sees and facilitates everybody else's skills, right? Like, that's really what a supervisor is. It's just like, you're all awesome. Let me help you be more awesome. As opposed to, you're going to do what I tell you because I know better. And that never goes well. So I'm stoked for you and everyone you work with.
Yeah, likewise, man. Especially just like having talked to you so much and interacted with you. It's like, yeah, couldn't think of someone better for that sort of role of just like taking in all the considerations and like being reasonable about them instead of just like not having, just like being in a situation like that where you don't have this incentive to like be seen as more or build yourself up, kind of like the you know the someone being voted president. It's like everyone really wants that role or the ones applying, and the best person for the job is someone who's a little bit more like, no, I don't know about that. I don't know if I really want that. It's new, it's different. Like there's going to be so much more empathy from someone in a role like that. And so yeah, it's dope. I had some other thoughts, but I'm just gonna pass it to Marie.
So they can come from Marie instead. Hi, Marie. Good to see you.
Yay, so good to see you all. I appreciated the live before this and getting to hear, because I've been like so curious and like, but also not necessarily curious, because I just like know and trust that whatever you all are going through is what you're going through. And so, but like there were moments, I even texted Amanda at one point where I was just like, hey, like thinking of you all. It was 4:20, so but I don't know. I definitely resonated with Ray's thoughts on the last couple of weeks in terms of not being able to pinpoint how you're feeling, and just like settling on it feeling a lot, because I don't know, I just resonate a lot with that, because I don't necessarily like the quick how you doing, good, and keep it moving type of, because sometimes I'll just I'm doing and people are like, oh, or I'm here. That's what they say a lot. They're like, and sometimes they take it as like that's a bad thing, because I'm not saying I'm good. But I don't even know what the fuck that means. But anyway, yeah, the last couple of weeks have been a lot, but I just was so it was a lot. I don't know. I've been not feeling so well today, and was like curious if I was gonna hop on this, but kind of jumped in anyway. It's kind of like what we're talking about, like the fear thing. Like I could have made the choice of letting fear and labeling me not feeling well as a reason to not do this, or I could just jump in and relax and hang out. Like, might as well not feel good with people that just want to relax anyway. It's like no pressure here. It's just you just get to show up and do a thing. That's all I'm ever doing, bro. Like I leave. Sometimes like people at work will be complaining about like the heaviness of work, and I'm just like, I don't know, I'm just showing up, man, and whatever presents itself I'll handle, and then I move on from there, and then everything ends. Everything's so fucking temporary. Like weeks are fucking flying sometimes, and then other times, time feels a whole other way. But it's just interesting, so I really try not to hold on to too much, because I don't know, I really don't.
Exactly. Well said. That was an awesome way to finish that, because I don't know. And that's very much what it comes down to. And I love that. Again, I think that's the big shift in our life, is when I don't know stops being a terrifying statement and starts becoming an exciting one. Right. Because at one point, it was just like, I don't know. And that scares the shit out of me, because security and this assumption of what's best drives me. Right. And now I'm just like, yeah, but that never pans out. I'm kind of excited not to know. Like what I don't know covers a lot of shit. Like there's a lot of experiences I don't even know. Think about that I don't even know would be awesome. I don't know. I don't even know about the experience I'm having right now. What I do know is that I can respond to it. And that's what I liked what you were saying there, Maria, is that you're like, I'm not really feeling well today. So I figured I'd turn it into something and come and relax with people I enjoy. It's like, well, that makes it far more complicated, doesn't it? Now all of a sudden it's like, are you having a bad day, or are you not feeling well on a good day? In which case it just becomes pointless to even try and conceptualize it. It's a day. And I'm feeling a lot from moment to moment to moment. But as soon as I grab onto any one of those things, that's my fucking day. And I just don't do that now. I'm just like, wow, I wonder what this is going to become in 10 minutes. Right. And that changes things, because then it's about my response rather than this is the label for the day that now I must toil through.
Oh yeah, and it totally discounts like how much is informed like surrounding a day. The thought of trying to figure out like, oh, I'm having a good day or a bad day, or yesterday was a good day, tomorrow, I don't know, or 2 days ago was a bad day, or whatever it is, then it's like, okay, well, if it was a good day, then I should just repeat that. I should do more of that stuff. And it create, but then just because it was a quote unquote good day because you did those things doesn't mean that you're the same person if you do it again. And that's kind of in the little bit of freedom from the known that I've read by Krishnamurti. He talks a lot, and just in general kind of talks a lot about how you know, if you strive to repeat pleasure all the time, like the thing that you derive some pleasure or joy from doesn't necessarily isn't the thing, because it's like the fullness of how involved you were plus a bunch of different things going on. It wasn't just this like, oh, if I just do this again, if I just have this experience again, then it's gonna do that. Because then you go into and it's like, yeah, no fucking shit. Because you go into that experience and being like, this is the thing that's gonna give me pleasure or gonna give me joy, and like just that, it's like that's not why that shit happened. So even the thought of like, you know, a guaranteed day to day, or, you know, I figured out this formula that then works. It's like if you're doing it so that it works, it's not gonna fucking work, because that's not the thing that made it work. And so there isn't anything at all. Like I'm getting a good appreciation. And today, Marie, similarly, like going into these calls, it's been a while since we have done calls in general, but also in this format, done a roundtable. And I was feeling all sorts of stuff going into it. And then I was re-editing a previous episode where I was going through some stuff and just laughing myself, like right before we went on live on TikTok. And then immediately I was like, oh fuck, I've just been taking myself really fucking seriously for the whole day. And I don't have to do that. And you know, it's informed everything that I've kind of shared and talked about. So the thought of, oh, I don't know if it's gonna help. Maybe if I was feeling good all day, I'd be feeling different right now. You know, who knows? You can just show up, you know, without so many guarantees.
I was just gonna say that, just show up. Like that's really it. Like one of the teachers I work with says like that's 90% of it, but like I feel like I would argue that's like 100%. But then at the same time, I guess there's like showing up and not like judging things or giving them significance, or I don't want to say significance, but yeah, all the feelings all the time, and it is funny to process, and it's a lot to process, and but I do like the reminder to laugh because it's helpful.
It is, when you can remember why it's funny. And that's kind of the thing that helps me. That's why I've always said, like, it's a funny joke when you get it. It sucks the rest of the time, right? Because you're just like, God, I'm creating my own fucking misery. And you get so angry about it, and you're still doing it until you're like, hold up, I just did it again. I could just chill the fuck out. And that's pretty much it. That's when it's funny. Is the recognition. It's like, yeah, you are. But that means you can stop. You know, that means you can just stop responding in the way that is reinforcing that suffering. You know, you can figure it out. You can find another path. You can choose another reaction. You can find another perception. You can allow yourself to be informed by all of it, and suddenly it becomes, you know, something that benefits you rather than something you just have to endure. You know, it's kind of funny. Amanda, I know we just saw you in LA, but it's good to have you here.
Oh, it is so good to be back. And Maria, I'm so glad that you were able to jump in. And Jay, I'm so happy about the good news with your job. I am definitely loving what has been said. And Jay, when you were first asking, like, you know, how can I be useful? And then Marie and Ray and Andrew, felt like you all were answering that, and Jay as well. And the answer that came to me was pay attention. And then when you were just talking, Marie, about like just showing up. And so it feels like the answer could be equal parts showing up and equal parts paying attention, you know, because as you show up, you're paying attention to the judgment and the crying and the laughing and the taking things seriously, and it feels like the joke of identity, the joke of attachment, the joke of need is only funny when you don't take it seriously. And then all those times where you're caught up in the idea of you, when you're caught up in your attachments and your needs, and you're like, damn, I was being a really needy little bitch right there. And that's funny. Your need becomes the joke. Your need becomes the punchline when you stop taking it seriously. And I appreciate all those times where I am genuinely upset about whatever it is, and when I'm laughing about being upset, and I'm just like, we're having a little Princess and the Pea moment, aren't we? Huh? We're no matter how many mattresses we're on, still feel the pee, huh? And I talk to myself like that, because it's like, if I can't poke fun at me, then no one, absolutely no one can. And so I'm the best person to poke fun in my stories. And I'm the best person to remind myself that I am not the story. And as much as the story is comforting, as much as the identities and the needs are comforting, that's not all that there is. And as clear as I can hear my fears, they're all pretty much the same fear. They're all just, I'm not certain. The I don't know is scary. And so then I break down, and then the I don't know becomes all these sub fears, but it all leads back to the same one, that I don't know has just become really scary because I think I should know. And I just don't have to. And as I'm feeling that, as I'm just feeling all of this, it's just being okay that there is a lot to feel, and I don't know what to do with that, but I'm here, and we're about to find out what I'm going to do with it. So let's go.
A fucking man. And the thought that like, and the thought, but also the reminder that like you can't prepare to be yourself at all. Like going into a situation, it's like there's stuff you can do to prepare for certain situations for sure, but when it comes to authentically expressing yourself, it's like there isn't. So if you're feeling super uncertain going into a situation, it's like get used to that, because yeah, you don't, it can't, if it can't be figured out anyway, like you can't do it beforehand, you can't prep, which yeah, just settling into that has been definitely helpful for me. Jay.
Yeah, I've been settling into that pretty well too. So one thing that I started doing is this exercise program, exercise, nutrition, and all kinds of stuff to it. I'm not going to go into there's a book about it. It's not something I would normally do, but a friend of mine asked me, and has been asking me for months, if I would do it with her. They're like, thinking about it. It's not really like my thing to follow a program, but I'm like, okay, fine. I think it could be helpful in my life. It's probably going to suck because there's a lot to it. You got to work out multiple times a day. It doesn't have to be anything serious, but there's all these like parameters. I'm like, okay, fine. So it's been like 10 days into this thing, and I don't necessarily like enjoy it. To be honest, like it's okay, but it's like I don't necessarily need to do this. But however, it's been getting me a lot more accustomed to hearing that the voice in the back of my head that's like the dissuader, oh, you don't need to do this, like the kind of slacker sort of voice that'll come up, that sort of thing. And so it's been nice to just kind of keep on keeping on with it, even though I don't want to, you know what I mean? That's kind of the nice part of it. Because I'm finding that it's actually given me, like, since I have to like get these things done, and it takes up a good amount of my time, I have to like plan and navigate, not necessarily plan, but I've got to navigate the rest of my day, and still I'm managing to get way more done, even in spite of having these extra things I need to do every day. I've been getting quite a bit more done in spite of that, just by sort of not listening to that thing that says I don't want to do this thing right now, because that's just something I don't have to listen to. It doesn't matter if I want to do the thing or not. I just have to do, I can do the thing. And then next thing, because either way, how I feel about it is not necessarily the most important thing in the world. You know what I mean? So yeah, just leaning into the uncomfortability of things, because it's just really uncomfortable, like to want to work out before bed. It's just like not usually when I do, it's like, oh fuck, I gotta get this workout in. So okay, whatever, just do it, and then I don't have to have much of an opinion about it after that. So that's been nice to just just kind of be doing that.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate when all of a sudden a lot of these things that at one point we're like, I should do this, like I should eat better, I should work out more, I should make more time for me, I should do all of these things. And the reason that they were shoulds was because we had no actual fucking awareness for how we felt. We were just going through the shit. We're like, I'm pretty sure I'm suffering. maybe if I do these things, it'll do something about it, right? But we didn't know. We were just going on the assumption that these are positive. Everybody says they're positive. I'll become vegan, or I'll take up a keto diet, or I'll start running, or I'll do any of these things. Whereas when you actually let go of these thoughts driving you most of the time, the thoughts that are shitting on you, the thoughts that you should be somewhere else, the thoughts of your past and what it means about you and all that shit, and all of a sudden you're left with, frankly, space. Like you're left with space to actually feel your body, to actually feel yourself. And now all of a sudden you're like, it's been really hard walking up hills lately. I don't like that. And so all of a sudden now, instead of it being a should, it comes from a place where you're making it a priority because you feel why it should be, right? You feel the priority rather than going, all these good things got to be good for me, without listening to anything. And I love that. I love the fact that something that's self-motivated, suddenly you can commit to because there's priority behind it, right? Whereas when it's just something you should do, it never sticks, right? It never sticks because you're not actually seeing the benefit, right? You might be, but you weren't really recognizing what the danger was, or recognizing what the consequence was that you were benefiting from. That's why self-awareness is so important. All of a sudden we go from being, I guess, these scripts where we're like, things are a little dark here, I should add some light to it, I should, try and buoy that up a bit, to just being like, oh, wow, this is where my life is kind of going in that direction and in this direction. And this is why I feel like this. Oh my God, I'm not drinking enough water. And it's all stuff that changes from going, I need to drink this much water per day, to, wow, I'm not running around so much, I'm really thirsty. Isn't that funny? Like as soon as you stop running around as much and focusing on your trajectory, all of a sudden your body's just like, hey, you remember me? I always find that shit amazing, but it's not until you slow down, and even when and if you do any of these things without slowing down, there's more of a consequence. How many people do you know who jog because it's healthy for them, but the entire time they're jogging, they're thinking about shit that stresses them out? Marie?
Yeah. I have been appreciating kind of going into moments and recognizing that like my opinion of that moment isn't what that moment actually is. And instead of getting like attached to my opinion of it and making that the narrative, then I just like let go, like that's an option. I might not, this may be uncomfortable, this may be like be outside of what I want to do. Or I'm thinking about that, Jay, as you were explaining this exercise. Like I've been feeling that way towards exercise in general, but I do I do recognize there's always the option to like make the opinion of that's a bad thing or that's not something that I want. And then that totally shifts what happens. And like I see when other people do it, like, and when I do it myself, it's just like so often shifts the actual narrative, and who knows what the whatever. I can't. I love when like my mind presents like a possible spiral of thoughts I could go on, but it's like, no, not today, not here. And maybe just for myself to giggle at. But yeah, my opinion isn't the actual moment is. So I've been having less opinions of things also. Like not like as all opinions are possible. Like so I've been like kind of stuck on that, which has made me feel open to talking to people that I might have not necessarily wanted to talk to, or participating things that I may have not wanted to because I had an opinion of it, or listening to someone genuinely as they go on maybe a tangent that I disagree with or I feel differently about, but just listening to it instead of putting all my opinions, because it's just an option. And so it's just been interesting to kind of like, yeah, I guess do that. It's just interesting.
Oh, it is. Yeah. I find myself like, oh man, the thought of even someone else and like how they're living their life, like trying to come to some certainty about that, like, oh, they should be doing things differently just because of like the ways that I've seen my life, or even someone who's like, I'll fall into this sometimes, or focus on fall into this. That's such a fucking avoidance way of saying that. I'll focus on, if someone is like an avid weightlifter, because I did that for so long and I tried to derive value from it, and I saw, that it didn't end up doing that. Like, there can be this sort of immediate sort of judgment that I'll feel if I notice someone who's like really big into it. Maybe they're on social media. It's like their whole thing is doing that, pushing other people to do that, getting other people to do that, whether it's any sort of exercise, any sort of approach to living. And I can feel like this immediate sort of judgment. And I've been noticing it more and being like, there's lots of things I do that are fucked up and weird and different and strange and like, self-involved, very much so. And so even just any sort of focus on someone else doing something that's like, well, I've seen that this isn't, there's clearly some value being derived from this, or attempting to, and they got to be careful of that. It's such like a, I guess that's any sort of thought, passing judgment, passing thought, and the same can be about yourself. And I'll notice that before I jump into that, next thing, and not continue on with what I was initially saying and sharing, like, I don't know that either. And like, I don't know how they're doing. I don't know how I'm doing equally. And I've found, just feeling sort of stuff like the last month, I haven't necessarily been working out much. I haven't necessarily been having any consideration of like the nutrients that I'm eating or anything, and just kind of noticing like, oh, feeling a little more tired, a little more sluggish. There's a part of me that's like hesitant to start working out or like have any sort of rigidity whatsoever, just in response to like, spent a lot of my life doing that. But like having that on the table, and almost like, Jay, to your point with things, like just do it, like shutting the fuck up and being like, well, I don't know if is this something that's I'm deriving value from. It's just like, just do it and like move on, and then go do something else where maybe it's not so much of like well, this is going to help me feel a little bit better. It's like, just do it for a bit and then go do something else, instead of, well, I don't know, and going like fucking, oh my God, the amount of back and forth that I can have in my head. It's like I could have done like 3 of them during that time, and just shut the fuck up. That's what I've been telling myself a lot more recently. And that goes for opinions too.
Because there's no right answer. That's the thing. There's no right answer. But there's, again, I guess, the spectrum of authenticity. You can either do it because you want it, or you can do it because of a bunch of bullshit reasons. The problem is when you're used to doing something for a bunch of bullshit reasons, you forget how to do it because you want it. Then you're like, fuck, I've been doing it for bullshit reasons. I can't do it anymore. Which is another bullshit reason. It's not that you can't do it anymore, just don't do it for the same shit. Right? That's the point. But then you're like, well, why would I do it? Well, that's a great question. Well, that's the question. There's no answer for me to give you. So ask yourself, why would you do it? If it's not for the bullshit reasons, then why is it? And if it's just because I wanna, perfect. That's it. But that's living. It's doing it, and doing it with a sense of responsibility and awareness. So that way, when you go into it and you decide, yeah, I'm going to go and I'm going to lift this thing that I know is too fucking heavy for me, but I'm feeling myself. And then you fucking rip a muscle, you have no one to blame. Right? Because you walked into it with eyes wide open. You're like, yeah, being a douche. That's pretty much it. Right? But then that's the point, is that if you're not doing it to be a douche, if you're not trying to push yourself and prove yourself and be seen by people and all that stuff, you're going to do it within a reasonable limit. You might push yourself, but you're going to understand it doesn't mean anything. So you're much less likely to hurt yourself, and you're much more likely to make significant and constant progress rather than trying to leapfrog ahead to these plateaus that mean something about you. Right? It changes everything when you're doing it just because you like to do it. I like to work out. When do I like to work out? I like to work out when I'm high. How many people do you know that like to work out when they're high? Right? Now, all of that comes down to your attitude towards it, because you're like, well, I'm high. I could do anything right now. I feel like working out. Right? Whereas a lot of people are like, oh, I'm high. I can't possibly work out because they have an idea of what it is to be high. It's like, you're just being yourself. You're just being yourself. But that means, again, like you can just work out because you want to. It doesn't have to mean anything about you. You can do anything because you want to. It doesn't have to mean anything about you. But because it doesn't mean anything about you, they're much less likely to do stupid shit. Isn't that funny? Like it changes your options. It doesn't really change your options, it widens them, but it changes the reason you go into the shitty ones. Like all of a sudden you're just like, I'm going to go down there because it means something about me and I'm going to get immediate satisfaction. Oh, fuck. That didn't turn out the way I wanted to at all. Right. And so you just stop doing that. And through that increased awareness, your life changes. And all of a sudden you get more joy out of sitting down on a park bench in the middle of the afternoon, having a moment of quiet and peace where you can exhale without a single thought about yourself than you do from going to a party where you're surrounded by people who all think you're the coolest fucking person in the world. Because one is all about you, and the other one is all about where you fit in with other people. It's a very different experience. Amanda.
I was just closing my eyes, picturing sitting on a bench in that park. It's like, yeah, I'm at that park right now. This is awesome. But I loved what you brought up, Andrew, about, like the hesitation that you felt towards working out is the same hesitation that I felt towards like getting gussied up and putting makeup and doing my hair. Because if anybody pays attention to all the original, or not the original, but all the beginning Patreon videos and roundtables, you'll see me, no makeup, hair's wet, like I just got out the shower, nothing's done. And I was doing that to prove to myself that I could do that I could show up unfiltered and still have an amazing time, that I could still feel like I made the most of my life for me. And it wouldn't matter if somebody thought that I was brilliant or beautiful or strong, or if somebody respected me or somebody thought that I was valuable. I very much did that, for the first retreat. I dressed in the bulkiest clothes because I had a tendency to dress with very tight form-fitting clothing for obvious reasons. And I was like, nope, we're going to go in the exact opposite direction on purpose. I am knowingly going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to be insecure. And I don't think anybody knew this, but for the first retreat, I packed a very tight outfit and makeup and hair. I had like my starter kit. I was like, if we feel incredibly insecure, we'll put our mask and our costume back on. But I never ended up jumping into that because I had proved to myself that like I didn't need to do that. And when I started to think about doing it again, I was like, I enjoy getting dressed up. I enjoy wearing crazy looking outfits. I enjoy wearing tight little outfits. I enjoy wearing makeup. I enjoy wearing no makeup. I enjoy putting on different costumes. And so the priority behind the action changed. And so it's when I admitted to myself that nothing meant what I thought it did. So it was like the opposite. It was very much like the other side of the coin of what you just said, Ray, where it's like, it doesn't mean anything. And on the other side of that coin is it doesn't mean what I thought it did. Not only does it mean nothing, it didn't mean what I thought it specifically meant. And that was something that I had to come to terms with. And all the times that I got dressed up and all those things, it's like, yeah, but nobody was paying attention to my costume as much as I was. And so now I can put on the costume just because I feel like dressing up today. And so now when I'm posting like my TikTok videos, I'm doing the same thing that I did at the beginning of the retreats and the Patreon calls and all that. I'm doing all my videos, no makeup, no nothing, because I'm expressing myself in a way that feels authentic to where I'm at. And eventually my videos will change and evolve as I change and evolve. And you'll see my videos and I'll be gussied up and dressed up and I'll have the makeup and the hair and the nails and all that. And all that will come back, because it doesn't mean anything. And yet I can still choose it because I just feel like choosing it. And so that I really resonated with your hesitation to working out, but just realizing that it's not the same habit, because it's not the same person maintaining that habit as it once was. And another thing that I've been doing lately is, if like there's a particular trait that I don't like what's something that I like, drinking water. Like I don't do that a lot, or I have the TV on all the time in my apartment, and it has music, it has a video or movie I'm not watching, and I would judge that. And when I do something like that and I judge it, I tell myself, or I ask myself a question: if everyone had this habit, it wouldn't be a problem, right? So why is it a problem now? If everybody had, let's say chicken legs, I've got skinny legs. If everybody had chicken legs, it wouldn't be a problem. It wouldn't be a flaw. So why is it now? What's missing? What is not having? Why is this a barrier to getting somewhere? What's missing? And so that's what brings me back lately, is saying that if everybody had this trait that I'm judging, if everybody had this flaw that I am saying is present, it wouldn't be an issue. So why is it an issue for me now?
Well said. I wanted to mention, what you were saying there. It isn't what I think it is. It's not what I want it to think it is. It's not what I want it to be. It's not what I want it to mean about me. That's really what it is. I want something to mean something about me. I had said this at the retreat in California, and it was a funny moment to me because I was sitting down in the middle of a psychedelic trip, and I'm watching the currents of my life from beginning to end. It was a great trip for me, and there was a point where I was just and I remember the resigned kind of tone where I'm like, all right, I'm starting to get how this works, but I don't like it. And somebody promptly went, well, why not? And I said, because it's not about me. And that is pretty much the most honest thing that I can say, is that life works just fine till I make it about me. Right. And then all of a sudden it changes tone entirely. But when it's not about me, everything works fine. It's great. It's just that I can't stop to make it about me. Right. So I can't just go, I'm doing great, because that doesn't apply. There's no me to be doing great. Right. That me that I'm focused on there isn't actually happening. Isn't that the funniest part, though? Like, it's like we are in this machine, like a little man sitting inside our head, right? And we are wandering around the world, doing our thing. But while the machine is interacting with the world, inside we have like this fucking hologram where we're experiencing a different thing inside the machine while the machine's happening. That's kind of what's happening now. Like, we're doing our thing. I'm interacting with people, saying what I'm saying, expressing what I'm expressing, but I'm telling myself a story on top of that isn't actually happening. Isn't that funny? It's like we were saying in the last episode. It's like, well, I just, if people like the impact, then it's a good impact. It's like, I don't know that. I don't know that at all, but it changes my experience. All of a sudden now being liked is the most, important thing in the world. So everything I see is a gauge of whether I'm being liked or not. And I can't see the world I'm actually interacting with. All I can do is look at what my brain is cherry picking according to my priorities. And that's a real bitch. It really is, because as soon as you want to see something, you'll see what you want to see. You just won't see what is.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass and read, but it not being about me, like it's such a brutally honest like that's why it feels like a lot, but then it's like, but me's been kind of the issue, or the thing that always gets in the way of everything. It's like the wall that I can't look past with any situation. Every situation has the potential. So if it's not about me, that wall's not there. But then it's like, but then how do how do I feel better? It's like, why do you have to? Well, because that's in response to it meaning something about you, something else meaning something about you. And it's like this constant back and forth, like two things when it means something about you instead of just life. You know? Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I There was another thing that you said earlier, Ray, that ties with this as well, of course, but of um the one that I remember is like unapologetically like being you. Like you're showing up, you're not um I feel like, yeah, and not like concerned about other people's opinions or doing things because, um just doing things just to do them and do them from like your want or, and so I find myself doing that lately as well. Just showing up, of course, I'll say that again, and like being myself and not without like it's such a freeing fucking thing, okay? Like to not give a shit about what people are thinking or assuming because it could be anything and it really doesn't mean anything about you. And it's like it's wild. So it's just been it's been fun to show up and see what happens and not care about what people are thinking. And so recently I had a conversation with the person, like my partner, or this person that I've been seeing for so long. But I was like, I had this recognition of not not needing anything from anybody anymore. And I say that as like, you know, obviously somebody who needed their parents at one point or needed some kind of support of whatever being raised, and then needing friendships, needing a partner, right, and feeling some sense of lack. And it's been really cool to like recognize the shift in like not needing anybody to give me anything that I don't already have right now. It's been really cool and like emotional at the same time to recognize that. But like definitely freeing. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I never do, but I do know that yeah, there has been no desire for anything or anyone to give me something that I like don't have right now. It's just it's a cool recognition.
Absolutely. It's just, again, leap of faith over and over and over again. It really is. You know, we don't look at it that way because we don't understand what faith means. I cannot tell you how many conversations I've had in the last like fucking month and people are like, but without faith in God, what do you have in faith? And it's like, that's not faith. Like, that's just more control. That's not faith. You know, faith is just going, I don't know, and continuing on. Like, so that's really all it is. And fear is really just thinking, overcommitting to this idea that understanding you don't means that all you can do is just keep moving. Have faith in yourself, recognize you're always learning, and every relationship changes as a result, but that means you have to be willing to let them change, and then that's the tricky part, because we get so caught up in thinking we know what we want, right? That we know what's best for us, that we, know what the future should be. I know I just went through this back in July when my marriage ended. It was all of a sudden it was like the trajectory that I had been on for 18 years just suddenly stopped. I was like, wow. And all the suffering I endured during that period of time was only a result of my commitment to that trajectory being the truth. That was the funniest part about it. Once I was like, oh yeah, I really overcommitted to that. It went away. Like that was it. That was the recognition. It was where it came from and why it hurt. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I didn't have to do that. And I've learned a lot ever since about not doing it again. Amanda.
Looking off into the distance over here. But I liked what you said about just it constantly being a leap of faith. And when you were talking about faith in God, I was thinking about how faith in God really feels like an investment and having somebody pay attention for you. That's what it feels like when I hear people saying that they have faith in God. It's like, oh, no, I trust God's plan. And it's like, okay, so you trust someone else to pay attention and show up for you. That's what I'm hearing. You trust that someone else is going to live your life for you, that somebody else has it all laid out for you. You're just investing in not living yourself. And that's what I hear when people are telling me that they have faith in God. And or when they'll thank God for something, and like we're stuck on the side of the road, flat tire, we're on the highway, it's fucking raining, it's pouring, we can barely see the tire, we wrench it, we've got it hooked up, we change the tire, we get back in the car, and somebody says, thank God that cleared up. Thank God, thank Amanda, motherfucker, I changed that tire. Like And that is such a specific example. Like, and I'm not saying that like I'm looking for the credit, but it just blows my mind how much people are like, I would rather someone else pay attention in my life, or I'd rather give someone else credit for the way that I show up in my life. And that just blows my mind because it's so unattached. It feels so just cold, and when I am in the thick of it and I am like taking that leap of faith, it feels like, no, I don't know what the next step is, but I know that I'm on this step. I know that I can pay attention here. I know that I can show up here. And with that, we can see what else is on the table. And I like bringing up, relationships, because I was having a chat with one of my oldest friends, and, she's chatting with me about certain things, and she's married and I'm not, and I'm about to move and I'm about to change careers. And she's like, aren't you scared? And I'm like, when am I not, man? Like, what are you talking to me about? And you're sitting here and we're having this conversation, and she's married and she's trying to get pregnant and she has a stepson. And I'm like, yeah, but you have all those things that you're saying I don't have, right? And it's true, I don't have those things, but you sound just as scared as I do. So where does it happen where getting the marriage and the husband and the kids takes away the fear that you clearly still have? So why are we so different in your head? Why does it seem like I'm in a more risky position because I don't have the same structures around me that you do, and yet somehow I'm the one who's crying less? And it's not because I don't have those structures that I'm crying less. It's just that I just don't have so much conflict with the I don't knows. I don't have so much weight with the uncertainty. And there's a lot more trust, because it has been just me without a lot of those structures, that it has been time and time again that I have either had to have a leap of faith and pretty much the let go or be dragged. And I got dragged enough times where I was being dragged in a way that felt like it was just me being dragged, that I didn't see any reason to hold on to. And there wasn't anyone next to me telling me to hold on. And even if there was, they were being dragged too. And so it's just being on this experience that I do appreciate it. And Marie, when you were talking, you were saying that, you don't need, you don't need anyone. And it's like, I resonate with that. And in the space of not needing, I feel like that's where you can genuinely appreciate someone being there with you in that moment. It's like, no, I don't know if we're going to be friends forever. No, I don't know if we're going to be dating forever or just sleeping together forever. I don't know that, but I'm really glad to be here now. And I showed up because I wanted to show up. I didn't show up because I thought you wanted me to be your friend. I didn't show up because you wanted me to be your lover or your girlfriend. I showed up because I wanted to. And in that, I found you here. And I'm so glad that you happen to be here. And as long as we're sharing whatever this space is, I'm going to make the most of it, because I'd rather do that than be worried about what could happen and suffer and not pay attention to what is already happening.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've definitely found myself in a number of situations where like that, the back and forth. I mean, it's like there isn't anything else. And like, who's to say that this situation that you're in right now isn't the perfectly appropriate thing to whatever's going on? And looking around for someone else to tell you how to live, or half the time, you have someone telling you like, oh, you should be doing this or that. Like most of the time they're not like fucking jumping out of bed in the morning being like, my life is incredible and amazing. Like, your friend that you're talking with, I have certainly plenty of people I've interacted with where like, yeah, you think that I'm doing something crazy, but like you're not super happy and thrilled all the time. And you keep saying like, I should be doing these things, but like, has that done the thing you think it's gonna do? And like half the time someone won't even want to look at that. Like, whoa, that's way too much honesty right there. Way too much of like putting me on the spot because I haven't thought about that. I just want to see everyone else live the way that I do so I can feel good, instead of just like in silo looking at my life and being like, has this done the thing that I thought it was going to do? Did this fix the thing that I thought I was going to fix? Did this solve the thing that I thought I was going to solve? Or did it just, you know, reinforce and force me to double down on, you know, this being the right way to act or live? Most of the time it's the latter, I think. I kind of lost track of which side I was on, but I think, you know, Jay.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, we never really do know, you know, what's gonna come in these situations. Like, I don't know, like looking at the animals. I was like looking at the animal kingdom as far as like how they treat life. You know what I mean? To find out what it's all about, because like they really have it a lot better figured out, I think, than I do, or that humans do. You know what I mean? Like I've learned a lot just from observing nature more than anything I could learn from in a book. Like you were saying that you just can't go to anybody else to find out like how to live your life, and you don't need to like get anything from anybody else. It's kind of like you can bring it into your life and try it out for yourself. But like anyways, with the animal thing, like if you look at a wolf just sitting there and he's just sitting there observing, he's not like thinking about how the other wolves are, you know, how he looks today, or like how the other wolves are gonna think about him if he barks this way or howls that way or something like that. You know, they just are their nature, and that's it. And that's like something that us as humans seem to kind of get away from. We get so lost up in our thoughts and narratives about how things are and the way things are supposed to be that it becomes like a story within itself. It's like the trip of it all is that we're not just like the machine that has the, you know, the inner narration that's going on inside of it, like inside of the machine. And you got this idea of like we're looking out at this, but it's not really what's going on inside of our head. But then there's also the awareness of all that going on behind the scenes of that, you know what I mean? So, and that's more or less where I try to put my butt into that seat, is that not like here's me doing my thing, and then there's me back there like watching kind of Jay doing his thing, sort of. And that's sort of where I sort of reside. And whenever things get a little too close to home, whether it's like, I don't know, like you just get those feelings where things are a little tense, things are a little heavy. It's like, oh, you know, like I don't know, whatever the case might be. It could be any number of thousands of things that go through somebody's head at any given point during the day. But once I just grab onto that, then it's like, hey, wait a minute now. That anything that really like has been like about me in any kind of a general way has been like a little bit of a, it's like, are you sure about that? Like, I don't know if you guys have seen, I think it's like a commercial where the guy's like, are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? I don't know if it's a meme or what, but that's just repeatedly goes on throughout my whole day. Are you sure about that? Is that really what you think? Is that really what's going on? Are you sure? And then the more I come up with it, it's just kind of like, I don't care if I am or not. I'm just not, you know, like I don't have to be sure. There's never any surety about it. But the idea that I've got to have things figured out is the fault in the first place. Like the wolf is just sitting there. He's just not trying to figure shit out. He's just being a wolf, you know? So, or being a spider or being an ant or a bird or whatever the case might be. So I don't know. I find more and more and more and more that the less that I interject my own kind of personal opinions about it, things into anything, the easier things seem to go. Like I'm actually able to listen to the conversation, understand what's going on, because it's not like me in the background or Jay in the background being like, oh, you know, all that little stuff that might happen. Yeah, there's wobble wobble, and it's like I'll hear it. It's still there. You know, it's still like my brain will kind of tail off. So like, oh, it's just funny. You know what I mean? The brain is a funny thing, but it's no different. I don't have to judge it because it's the same as my body. It's like if my foot just happened to twitch, I'm not going to be like, oh, what the hell, foot? I'm so sick of that foot twitch. Like, what am I going to do? Get upset about my foot twitching? It's just like, okay, foot's twitching. This brain does the same thing. You know, basically, just kind of throwing stuff out there. But I digress.
Yeah, the functionality of the brain, just recognizing that it's going to keep coming up with stuff. Like as you're talking, you're never going to go into a situation where it's not going to come up with stuff. It's like expecting, I don't even know. Yeah, your blood to stop pumping if you worked on it enough. It's just like a function or your food.
Conversations in a coma.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
It's impossible. That's the point, right? Like we keep wanting our brain to stop, but our brain is doing a lot of fucking work. You know, it's like, make this thinking stop. It's like, or you could just stop letting it hit you so hard. You know, that's really it. That's our option. It's not like the thinking can ever go away. It's so funny. Like there was I don't know, there's this Buddhist monk guy floating around on TikTok. And you know, because he's got the bald head and he wears the robes and he's got like the backdrop and the whole thing. And he's like, you know, you must stop your thinking. You must get outside of your thoughts to escape the prison. I'm like, sounds like another prison. You know, like it sounds a lot like all of a sudden I gotta do one more fucking thing. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like all of a sudden there's something else that's not quite right. And that's the problem. You know, it's the response to thinking. Like the idea that there's not that there's something not quite right is a thought. It's a thought. It's not the truth. It's a thought. But because it's a thought we fear, we're like, well, I got to think something up to fix that. And then we get deeper into the thought instead of just going, I don't know. And that's it, being informed by the thought, not dictated by the thought. You know, I really think that's the point, is to be informed by all of them, but not dictated by any of them. Because as soon as you grab onto one, you have become unreasonable. You're no longer seeing anything. You're taking up a position because you're committing to one thought. And that thought is always on a spectrum. There's always another thought that's equally valid to that thought. Now you're in contradiction to it. You're in conflict with it. Where up until that point, you could see everybody's point of view. You know, this is something that people have said to me on Patreon a number of times in the direct comments. Like, you're really good at, you know, building a bridge with people. It's like, not really. You know, I'm not building a bridge to anyone. That sounds like a lot of effort. You know, it really sounds like a lot of work. All I'm doing is just not committing to any idea of myself, which means that when they're talking, I can hear them. I'm not hearing what I need to think about me. See, isn't that funny? See, if I'm not thinking about myself, then I'm listening to you and I can hear more of what you're saying. But as soon as it's about me, all I'm hearing is how you validate or invalidate me. And that changes our relationship because suddenly we're not having one. Right? Now it's a relationship between me, myself, and I. You know, and that's it. The whole of my relationship is with my thoughts about myself. You know, and you're just playing a part you don't even know you're playing. And that's why communication is so hard. But to recognize that, you know, all that need, all that desperation, that frustration, that manipulation, all that shit, it's just wasted energy. All of a sudden, it's like your eyes are open, your ears are open. You hear everyone, you're just like, holy shit, you're going through it too. And it changes everything. As soon as you recognize, I can do it the hard way and I don't really need anything. Isn't that funny? I can do it the hard way. And it's not really the fucking hard way anymore. Amanda.
No, it's not the hard way, it's just a way, you know, and when the question that came to mind was, you know, do I have relationships with people or contracts? Right? In contracts, you got to lay out what you're getting, what I'm getting, what we're conceding, who's getting what when, is there a schedule? How long is this contract going to last for? It's like, when I think about it, I was like, there are so many times where I had more of a contract between me and someone else, between me and reality, between me and my life, more than I actually had a relationship and or a friendship, or, you know, whichever word we want to use. And I was thinking about the brain. And I was thinking about how the brain, I can view that as this burden, the burden of thought, the woes, or I could treat it like a friend. And sometimes my friends get drunk and say stupid shit. And sometimes my friends have brilliant ideas. And sometimes my friends and I are on the same wavelength. And sometimes we the fuck are not. And so I'm thinking of like treating, just thinking of the relationship as a friendship. And the friendship is constantly being built in the same way that a relationship is constantly being built. We're always in flux. Things are always moving. We're always changing, and you're relearning. I guess the analogy that comes to mind is like we're dancing, right? And sometimes we're dancing in a friendship way, a romantic way, and we can see that we're dancing, but we are coming up with the choreography in every single step. And although we can just discuss left or right, baby, what are you thinking? As much as we can discuss it, we are going to be deciding as we're taking that left or right step. And if we're debating whether left or right is better, we're going to be stepping on each other's feet. We're going to be missing things. We're like, it's just coming up with the friendship and the relationship in every single moment. And I loved, it's like getting to know you never ends. Like I'm always in the process of getting to know you, because so are you. So am I. We're always getting to know all of this. We're always getting to know. You never know what your life is. You never know what someone else is. You never know what you mean to them or your impact. Like you just never know, but you just don't need to.
Well said. And that's it. Can you accept that? Can you accept that you'll never know yourself and you'll never know anyone else in the way that you want to, in that conclusive, secure sense of control way? Can you accept that? And the real question is, why not? If your answer is no, right? And that's really all you get to work with, is why not? Why can't you accept that? Because you'll notice that's most of your frustration, right? It's just that, it's like, but I want to know. You're in for a ride. Whereas if you can accept that you can't ever know, then what you'll do is start to master adaptation. You'll start to master pivoting, and you'll make it a dance, right? Just exactly as Amanda was saying. If all of a sudden you're like, I need to know every move of the dance in order to measure whether or not I'm a good dancer, that's not dancing, right? Dancing isn't the movement. It's where the movement comes from.
Right.
Whew. Got wrapped up in that. That was great. Yeah, I guess it's been cool to like not overthink the dance moves and just dance. And the dance changes and shifts as everything else shifts and changes, and it's just been fun to adapt, like you said, to all right, oh, okay, it's a little switch up here. We're gonna do a little bit of this now, and and it's been fun to like just pay attention and feel it out as it goes instead of, getting wrapped up in the fear or the judgment that usually comes along with jumping into things, or what prevents us from jumping in because we're getting wrapped up in our own shit. It's not about us. It's not about me. And it's this funny balance of that, because all I ever experience is me. It really isn't about me. Because we're all experiencing it all being about me. Like, that me. But it's like the recognition that we all are that having that. So it's like, oh, it's like I keep always thinking of the Spider-Man like meme of them pointing at each other, like, because I'm like regularly doing that with like some of the thoughts that pop up, is they're all there and they're all this constant like, oh, what is it? And it's funny, but I really just have been enjoying showing up and seeing what happens when I don't get caught up in who I think I need to be. Like, and it's funny going into different roles with that perspective too, because there's some expectations of me as a teacher or like me as a daughter or as these roles, and it's funny to like meld all of like, no matter what role or thing I show up for, I'm just showing up as I am. So like sometimes like I'm, super silly and not as serious, or don't do the dance so that like teachers would expect me to do, or like admin would expect me to do. Or sometimes I don't play the role of being a good daughter. Sometimes I don't play and I'm just, showing up and like that unapologetically. Like I'm not showing up for you or for like I'm not I'm here because I'm here. And that perspective, like, because I feel like so much of my life I was doing things for other people and I didn't know how to just do things to do them. I didn't even know like how to make that decision. I don't know, like what do I want to do? I've never been given that choice. Like my mother made that choice for me forever until I like went to college, and even still then there was a lot of the choices were, based off of her. And so I feel like I'm still in the early stages of, so I hate people that are in their, late 20s, early 30s that say they're old. Like, fuck you. That makes no fucking sense. Come on, shut up. Like, and so, why do you like to say that? I don't know. What are you getting from that? Anyway, it's just so annoying because, like, anyway, I don't know where I went with that, but just like that. You see, I love when that happens. Woo! It's just pictured like in my mind. There's a part in Groundhog Day where he goes off the cliff. He's driving the car and he goes right off. That's where my thought just went. It just explodes. Anywho.
Oh, I love when that happens, but I'm feeling all that for sure. Like the thoughts of, or the reality of just like making decisions for yourself. Because even if it doesn't feel like someone's dictating it, it's like most of my life I've at least, looked something up or asked someone for their thoughts or tried to get, some additional consideration. Just like just a little bit of validation. Just feel a little bit like, it's not just on me to make a choice and deal with it. But again, when you look to someone else, when you get someone else's advice, when you take in, it's not to say don't do that stuff, but it's like there's a trade. There's a trade, and you like if a situation you were to look to someone else and then do that, it's like whatever thing plays out, you have the opportunity to be like, oh, well, I listened to them. But it's like, yeah, but it was still your choice to listen to them. You could have made a choice for yourself. So there is another layer of like a responsibility to it. And like there was an initial sort of irresponsibility. So to then try and pass it off, like it doesn't really work like that, because you passed off the ability to make the choice and take the fullness of like however that experience plays out kind of off the table a little bit, like trying to mitigate the impact or like your own responsibility by being like, oh, well, this person wants me to do this, or this person told me to do this. But yeah, that process of just not looking around so much doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be comfortable, even if it is at least learning moment to moment so much more from your experience than, looking to someone else who's just willing to, they just want to validate their perspective too. Yeah.
Yeah, it can help to remember that there's nothing more uncomfortable than seeking comfort all the time. It's a life of desperation and frustration and a lot of annoyance. Right? It's like, why can't all of you just fucking make me comfortable? Why do you need to be? And yet if you accept discomfort, suddenly you find yourself far more comfortable with it. Jay.
Dude, what a good topic, because this is something that I've really been kind of tinkering with in my own life, because it's what I've really come down to the recognition is this experience is all mine. And like you might think that I know that like inherently throughout my whole life. But if it is just all mine, then why am I looking to others to like for comfort seeking? Like what am I going to get from somebody else that I can't provide within myself? You know what I mean? The comfort comes from within. The same thing with like resentment. If I am resenting somebody else, it's me who's doing the resenting. Like the other person does not get hurt from me being pissed off at them. You know, it's me. So as I go through the day, one of the best things I've learned, not necessarily learned, but like that I hear that from early on in the podcast, just relax, pay attention, be yourself. The Ray's Holy Trinity, and the relaxing part of it is for me the thing that comes up over and over and over again throughout the day, because it's like considering that this is my experience and this is the only experience I have, and if like at the end of my days, which could be today, I look back and I was not satisfied with my life, I have nobody else to point a finger at. You know what I mean? It's only me, and my responsibility for this experience has to come from within. Like I can't look to anybody else to provide me comfort or surety or anything. It's just like it's only me. So like when I'm noticing myself like not feeling comfortable in my experience in whatever case might be, then it's like, hey, dude, you're not feeling comfortable, but that's like something that's within your control. You can just relax no matter what is going on. And I found that that's what comes to mind more and more and more. And I find myself just relaxing more and more and more. And it's been nice to watch this continuously unfold, because I can only relax to the extent that I can today. But I've seen that over time, that's been like changing. You know what I mean? My relaxation level has been, you know, getting increased. It's just because I'm allowing myself to a little bit more each time. It's like relaxing practice. It's nice. I enjoy this. But it all comes with, there's a certain amount of work that comes before you can get to that, in recognizing that it is all my responsibility. And that means that the suck shit too, that's my responsibility too. You know, that's stuff that I don't want to look at because that might mean something about me. Well, that's exactly what I need to be looking at, because if it means something about me, then it's false. It's not true, you know. And yeah, so
Well said, man.
resonate. It totally resonates.
Yeah, that's great. And the relaxing, again, as you said, you know, it's self-refining, but it's not one of those things that you can hurry, because that's not very relaxing. All right. So it very much is just letting it take its course. You know, it's like sinking into the water. Alan Watts put it perfectly. He's like, you don't grasp for the water. You know, that's how you drown. You float. You relax enough until you can float. You can feel the buoyancy of the water. The same is true with relaxing as a whole. You know, you keep doing it, and eventually you're like, oh fuck, there's more happening here. Like all of a sudden it starts to make sense, where before it was almost like just, you know, something you haven't tried for long enough. It's like, never really tried that just easing into life thing. And give that a shot for a bit, and all of a sudden you're like, oh fuck, there's a whole other world over here. You know, but you can't rush it. And what's funny is that the more you relax, the more you go, oh, I'm so glad I couldn't rush this. Because that's the point, is that every step of it is worth cherishing. As I said to somebody at the first retreat, cherish your walls. It's important, because later on you'll go, I got nothing to worry about. And it'll feel weird.
And as soon as there's that thought, like, I feel like I don't worry as much anymore. Brain will be like, have you thought about all these things? Like, whoa, hold up. I wasn't looking for fucking a array of things, but those will be there. And it's like, yeah, it's like realizing there's not an end to the potential of any of it. So it's like, all right, if that's the case and there's nothing I can do to like create a finality with the back and the forth, then maybe I don't have to have so much fucking fight to it right now. It's like, oh, it's just gonna be what it is, and I can still like live my life with it, or on top of it, or despite it, or along as it goes, and see it be informed, you know, as you know, keep going through stuff. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Jay, I was absolutely resonating with what you were saying, and I could feel it. I could feel what you were saying, and it is wonderful. I'm I'm so glad that I get to witness and just be reminded that it is only me, but the beginning was very much a we thing, right? Like I didn't learn how to shit on myself by myself. There was definitely a curriculum that went into it. So it was very much a we, and now it is all on me what I do with all of that, all of the progression. And and as much as a part of us would like to rush it, it's it's so wonderful that you can't rush it because you can savor it. And so that's what I was thinking about. I was having a conversation about just about like eternal joy, right? Because I think somebody had jumped on our call-in show and was very much like, no, there's just nonstop joy that you can feel. And I'm like, but in the action of reaching for happiness, what I end up grabbing is sadness, is disappointment. That's how it feels to me. So I can't pursue just happiness. The goal can't be to just be free from thought and to be free from despair and pain. And it's like, because it is that pain, it is that suffering, that despair, that disappointment that adds depth to my appreciation, that adds depth to the joy and the happiness. And they are equal sides or two sides of the same coin. And I'm so glad for all the things that I cried for hours and hours about, because I thought that that meant something and I thought that I couldn't change it. And I think that's what was more important about why I thought it meant something about me, was because I thought that I couldn't change it. And it felt like like a like a court sentencing or a death sentence. Like, this is it. And because I thought it meant something and because I thought I couldn't change it, I felt utterly doomed. Like it was inescapable. But thankfully, going through that experience and being able to see that I built that prison that I was holding the key to, walking out felt unbelievable. Unbelievable. It could not have felt better if I had always known that the prison wasn't real, that I always had the key. Walking out felt incredible because I thought that I really couldn't. And so I appreciate those moments where I felt absolutely stuck. And like, because they just feed into each other. And Marie, I wanted to mention that when you were talking about like this, you feel so new at it. And I resonate with that so much. And it feels like what feels old to me is my story. The present moment always feels new, but what feels old to me is the story, the thoughts. That's what feels so incredibly old. And so when I hear people that are like 25 and 30, they're like, they feel old. I'm like, motherfucker, I feel ancient sometimes. I feel like I've been here forever. But you know what feels old like on a scale of 0 to 100 years is my fucking story that I've been putting on repeat for 20 fucking years. That's what feels old. But somehow this moment feels incredibly new and incredibly permanent, or like eternal in some way. It just feels like it's just like seeing infinite sides of this moment, and this moment is always here, but I am always looking at a new side because it's always new eyes that are looking.
And that helps a lot to just realize like every perspective, that every situation you go into, like you're seeing it from a differing perspective, and that pull to almost like maintain yourself and think like, oh, but I'm definitely this, or I definitely have this fear, or I definitely deal with this thing. Like, I don't know. I can't say with certainty, oh, if someone asks you like, oh, what are your biggest fears? Like every time if I try and answer that, it's like, I don't know that necessarily, but yeah, it's like at which point of when in my life and what time of day and what situation am I in? And like none of that is going to be the case. But like if I want to know something, be like, oh yeah, no, I'm really afraid of that. And then there's going to be like, you almost want it to happen to like give yourself some certainty instead of like, I don't know that either. Find out. I don't have to be though. Marie.
So I went through that experience where I realized my hand was raised and you were speaking, and I was like, oh goodness, why did I put my hand up? I know something triggered it, and that moment's gone. But we're here. Darn. There was something, yeah, I was like, yeah, I want to talk about this. Isn't that funny? Once again, having these expectations and then it's not what it is, and that's okay. Um, yeah, I know. I'm doing the thing where I'm stalling and saying all the things until it comes back, but
Right. Hoping
still
desperately
haven't.
it returns. Come back. It was good. And all of the stuff that means something about it. And that's why it's important to have those
I
moments, right?
yeah, I need you to feel a certain way about me right now, okay?
Or I would really like for you to share the experience that I'm having right now. And it's really important to recognize I can't. None of us can. Like, as much as I try to communicate the insights that I have, quote unquote, insights, as much as I try to communicate the experience of being me, I'll always fall short. I'm never able to actually communicate the things that I experience in the way that I'd like to, and you can't hear me. That's the funniest part, is even if I could miraculously communicate everything I'm feeling, you can't fucking hear me because you're filtering it through what you're experiencing. But there's so often that we feel like there's this pressure to finish what we were going to say, because if I just finish it, if it's just done correctly, if I could just tie that fucking ribbon, you're going to understand me. It's like, you're not, though. You never will. But if I stall out and all of a sudden I'm like, fuck, I don't know what I was talking about, you're going to understand that I don't need to. I don't need you to understand me. And that means that you don't need to be understood either. There's a different message entirely. Fuck it, trail off. Like, it doesn't even matter. Because at the end of the day, what are you doing? It's your time. It's your time. You don't have to fill it with fucking insight all the time. It's boring. That was it. That's all I had to say about that. I did want to throw in very quickly, because we got about 7 minutes left here, that we are almost finished our mini retreats for 2024. We have one left. One left. It's coming up on May 30th to June 3rd. And this is going to be our most cannabis friendly mini retreat, because it is in Denver, Colorado, at a place that is specifically for cannabis. I'm not going to mention the name of the place because, of course, we're not doing that. It's all in secret. It's very clandestine. The point is that if you smoke weed, you want to smoke weed inside, hang a fuck out with a very happy Ray, play pool, watch movies in a movie theater fucking style plush ass seat with a popcorn machine. There's a hot tub upstairs. There's a game room. It's got Pac-Man, air hockey, foosball. There's this little backyard. We go for walks. It's fucking great. And we're not going to be doing any more of these until 2025. The tickets for these are actually really, really affordable, especially if you are a Patreon supporter. So if you're not a Patreon supporter, do consider becoming a Patreon supporter, even if it's just to take advantage of the discounts, because Tier 3 saves $350 on this, which means that you can get a bed to this retreat, all your cannabis and other, let's just say, party favors covered, time with us, all your dinners, all the things included, your bed, blah, 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 for $1,000. This is going to be one of the cheapest retreats that we've run to date. So if you can make it, this is definitely the time. It's not going to be a big event. I need everybody to know that. If everybody were to take one bed each, there will be 7 guests. Now, the nice part about this location is that all of the beds are huge, which means that if you and your partner or a very close friend would like to come to the event and you both listen to the podcast, this is an excellent opportunity, because you can actually bring a guest for only $850. So if you have one ticket at a normal price and you bring a guest, you're actually saving significantly for 2 tickets for the 2 of you. Does mean you have to share a bed, though, and if you're in the bunk room, that one's going to be a fucking party. But do consider joining us in Colorado, because this is my favorite location outside of the 9-day retreat that's going to be coming up later this year. This is our last mini retreat. The 9-day retreat is going to be a bit more expensive because it's 9 days, which means that there is also a chef. All of your meals are taken care of. There's massage therapy that's available. There's Reiki that's available. We're right on the riverfront on Vancouver Island. The 9-day retreats are fucking magical. Magical. And this is going to be at the location of our original 2, which by far is one of the 2 of the most impactful retreats I've ever been to. There's a dope gazebo where I am in my element. There's a wood burning stove. There's couches blankets, we smoke weed, we go for walks. There's 2 provincial parks within a 5-minute walk from the lodge. So we go down there. One of those parks is called Sumass, which leads to all kinds of fun jokes for sure. But Colorado, if you can come, definitely do. Buy your tickets now because it's coming up in about 5 weeks. And then we're not going to be doing any more of these events for a bit because we are reassessing everything, which brings me to my last announcement because I've got a few minutes left. So why the fuck not? Dualistic Unity is changing. There's a lot of things that are underway right now. We're making a lot of connections, a lot of friends. We were just at a number of events in Hollywood and California as a whole. We are in the process of expanding. We recently did our first investor presentation where we talk about how well we are doing, where we sit in global podcasts, and exactly how profitable Dualistic Unity can be. So if you are interested in that, by the way, you can go to dualisticunity.com/invest. You'll see a video from the presentation that we gave before we left for California. You'll also have a chance to look through the slideshow presentation, which you can download. And then if you're interested, you can fill in the form letting us know that you would like to invest. This is an investment. This is not Patreon. This is not a donation. This is an investment, which means that you can invest in Dualistic Unity and receive a return of investment of 15%. over 7 years. So whatever you invest, you're going to make 15% back on, which is a nice sizable return. If you would like to invest over a certain amount, specifically if you would like to invest, actually I won't mention the amount, it's in the presentation, but if you would like to invest over a certain amount, you can also become a part owner of Dualistic Unity. We are currently offering up to 20% of the podcast company itself, which would give you, I guess, the ability to look at the fact that you are helping to establish roots. You would be a very big part of this. Now, if you're not able to pitch enough to be a part owner, you can still get a sick return on your investment over 5 to 7 years. And so definitely take a look at that presentation. If you have any questions, let us know through the contact form. And otherwise, if it's something you're interested in, we will get back to you in the next week to 2 weeks to schedule a one-on-one appointment with you with the paperwork that you can look over, all the stipulations of your investment, the whole official thing. This is where we're at right now. And if you're wondering, well, what am I investing in? You're investing in a podcast that is currently in the top 1.5% of global podcasts. We have been around for 2.5 years. We made almost $200,000 in 2023 through our combined workshops, retreats, events, and other sales. We aren't actually making a whole bunch of money because we put everything back into Dualistic Unity at the moment, but we actually do have a scalable business at the moment. And all of this has been built organically. This is the best part about this, is that our audience right now, the size of our audience and our global reach was all achieved organically. We've never put advertising dollars into this in any major capacity whatsoever. And so your investment is going towards straight up exposure. We know how much that we can make based on the audience size that we have, and we know how much we can make if that audience size balloons. And that is what you are investing in. The expansion of exposure for Dualistic Unity, which means ads on TikTok, usually using Andrew and a few other videos that have been submitted to us by audience members, as well as ads on subway signs, bus signs, possibly on certain channels and whatnot. Again, collaborative I would like to say collaboration efforts are being made at the moment, but there's a lot of stuff that we're going to be doing, and investing in advertising Dualistic Unity is only going to push it. It's like a big shot in the arm. All right, and that's pretty much it. So if you believe in this and you believe in what we're doing and you would like to make a little bit money on the side, as well as knowing that you are instrumental in the growth of this as we move forward, dualisticunity.com/invest. And I'm going to leave the last minute and a half to Andrew or whoever the hell else wants to speak.
Definitely check that out because things are shifting. Yeah, I mean the amount that we've been able to grow and do despite putting, like, we pretty much have just put enough advertising in to get a sense of the impact of it, and that's kind of the extent. So if there's any interest in an involvement in some sort of investment, yeah, let us know and we'd be happy to chat and expand on the details for that. But
And you're not alone. I just want to throw that in there. It's funny. I'm like, I'm going to stop talking. Nope, I'm back, motherfucker. I just wanted you to know there is already investor interest. This is something that we've been talking to people for the last several weeks. There's a sizable amount of investor interest at the moment. We're looking for people who we know believe in what we're doing, people who aren't just looking for that ROI, though it is there. You know what dualistic unity is all about. You understand that this isn't a business as people tend to think of it. So if this is something you want to be involved in, if it's appropriate to your journey, get in touch.
Absolutely. And that looks like puts us at time. Jay, Amanda, Marie, appreciate you hopping in here. It's been a very fun chat. We will be on Patreon in 15 minutes, and I look forward to seeing some of you there.